ReefDudes is sponsored by Brightwell Aquatics and Bulk Reef Supply.
Today we're going to talk about why you need a leak detector. What's going on, guys? Devin from ReefDudes. Now, with every tank, it's inevitable that eventually something's going to leak or you're going to spill something at some point in time. So I do believe it is very important to have a leak detector. Most recently, a month or two ago, I had a little fitting on a reactor leak, and of course I had a bunch of water on the floor here, which I promptly shampooed up. But that prompted me to ask myself, why the heck haven't I put any leak detectors on this tank? So I do think they are very important, and you can kind of control different chunks of equipment based on that. That's kind of what I want to talk about today. So on this tank I have the Neptune Apex, so I did pick up the actual LDK kit, and I do have the sensors in various spots on the tank, which I'll show you in a minute. On the frag tank, I have the Hydros one, which is kind of a rope leak detector, which is kind of cool. You could DIY something fairly easy, similar if you ever seen like horse fields or cattle fields, how they have an electrified wire. It's very similar to what this is, so you could probably hook that up to something like a breakout box. Same thing on the Neptune one. I did a video a while back with making a DIY version. This is the Avast breakout box, and you can get the Neptune one. And you can use these little raindrop sensors. And it's really easy to just basically wire those to those two pins, and if water gets on it, set it off. So this is like a buck, not even. So super cheap to make these, and if you want to see that video, check that one out. Now you need to consider what in your tank can actually leak. So right now, there's actually nothing that can really leak in my calcium reactor because all the fittings are in the top. The only potential lower spot is my pump for it. So if we look back there, I actually do have a leak sensor just underneath the pump fitting. So if there ever was a leak there, I could have it turn off the calcium reactor pump, for instance, or turn off the feed pump. Now, the other part that I've had a potential leak from before is right here. So this is for my Mastertronic. This is my tester, and I have a solenoid in the top. So just on Fridays, when my ATO is on, when it's on and it's Friday, it'll open the solenoid to refill this container. So I partially eliminated my risk of spills by only having it activate 1 day a week and only on when the ATO is on. Now there was one point where I manually opened this because I was filling it, and of course I forgot to turn it off, and it had a bit of a leak. So now, you can't see under there, but I put a leak detector underneath there. So this is a common point where if that leaks, then alert me or turn it off. Looks like I gotta change my role. Now another kind of silly one that I didn't consider at first is these dosing lines. When I was doing some work on my DIY battery backup, pulled the cabinet out too far, and so most of these lines are just poked in here. I do have little bulkheads over, which I should be using because this would have prevented my issue, but because I pulled them too far, you know, one of the hoses was poking out like this, and it was dosing beside my tank stand. So this is another area that I should probably have a leak detector. So you kind of got to consider any spot that water or fluid could potentially leak from. You know, another not bad spot would be either down here. I've had a Comore pump in the past where the tube inside broke and then it was leaking. Also before, when I was playing with hydroxides, I had to eat through one of the little plastic fittings, and then it was not a lot, but there's a little bit of a drip. So you got to consider any point where water is moving outside of that box or not above your sump. That could potentially cause a leak, and that's the spot a leak sensor should be. So I should really add one here on the back of this cabinet or the edge or somewhere around here. Now if a leak happens, there's two things that's got to happen. One, you need to know about it. So on the old Apex, they had a little screen that had like the little audio alarm. On this one, I did a bit of an LED alarm. So there's an LED strip in here, and when it comes on, it lights up the roof red. So that's kind of my visual indicator. On top of that, you would get the notifications. But if you don't have your phone around, I see a big red glow off my roof. Okay, I know something I look at the tank. Now the other part of this is preventative. What are you gonna do about it? So in my case, if my calcium reactor was leaking, in my code for it, I would turn off the calcium reactor, I'd turn off the feed pump, which is all my Versas, and yeah, the Versas and the recirculation pump in it. Now on the flip side, if I have a leak over above that little container, then I'm gonna turn off my ATO pump so that no more water can go and feed it. Again, if I put another sensor down there and it detects a leak by all my dosing systems, I'm gonna turn off the Versas so that nothing else is gonna pump water. So a lot of it is just doing that kind of remediation ahead of time, and if you do have a control in your tank, that's one of the best parts. It's great to know about it. You can go deal with it, but it's even better if it kind of fixes it, prevents it from getting worse when you're not around. So again, you can buy all these systems, you can make DIY versions. This is the Hydros, but you can totally DIY this one. The breakout box, or if you're on a super big budget, check out these little raindrop sensors because they work very well and it was a super easy DIY. So hopefully you guys are considering safety around your tank, save your floors long term and do something to prevent disasters down the road. Because being preventative is going to save you a lot of headache in the long run. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this kind of quick tip, inspired you to make your own leak detection system or pick one up. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button. If you got any specific questions on it, let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.